Hello guys, it's Unders. Today we're going to have a look at the DBX 160 compressor limiter from Waves and UAD. Just have a little comparison of the two and a listen through them. If these videos are useful for you, please pop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It does help me out massively in creating more content for you guys. So let's bring both of these up on the screen. Right now we have the Waves one, and the really tiny version here is the UAD. Now they both look relatively similar. Key difference between the two, obviously, you've got an extra set of 3 knobs on the Waves version there on the left. They are exactly the same functionality, but you've got an independent left-right control available on the Waves version. Equally on the Waves version, if we hit this little collapse icon here, we've got separate input, mix level, noise, as well as stereo, dual functionality, so a copy of the compressor left and right, so we can work them separately, and mid-side options available, not available in the UAD version. We'll collapse that down because we're really just going to be comparing the two here, but it's nice to know those extra features are available within the Waves version, especially considering there's a huge price difference. Now, both of these plugins are created in collaboration with DBX, and they're both authorized 160 emulations. However, they sound incredibly different, as we're going to discover here. So I've put some relatively harsh settings on. We've got the threshold really far back, compression ratio 4, the gain is 0, so we're going to get some drop down in level, but that doesn't matter. We're going to be comparing the two, and they have got the same settings, so we should be getting the same things here. I was going to do a phase cancellation comparison as well, however they are so drastically different it sort of defeats the point. We can really hear the difference. So we're going to listen to it on my drum bus, bass bus, instrument bus, and then the full mix bus of the track I've got here. If you like the track, by the way, it will be out May 2017, as the rest of my album is. There's currently a single circulating from that album as well. If you want to grab it, it is available on this channel or Spotify, etc. I will link it below. So let's get into this. We're just going to have a quick listen to the overall mix. Then I'm going to solo just the drum break, and we're going to go A and B between these two, and then just talk about really quickly what we can hear difference. So just in case you're unable to see very clearly here, I'm going to enable the Waves version first, then disable it, and then enable the UAD version, and then I'll go as quickly as possible between the two. You can hear there's a pretty drastic difference between the two when it comes down to the drums. The Waves version seems to be, should we say, a little bit sloppier. It catches the peak, so it really compresses a lot more, whereas the UAD version is letting the peaks through and then compressing, so it gets more of a punchy sound. Now, this is something that could be adjusted. You can work on the compression ratios and things like that to get it to change. However, they are currently the same settings. We'd expect to see the same results. So it is possible that they've used the original 1970s versions of these compressors, and their emulations have come out drastically different as a result. But essentially, these two are giving a very different sound. There's no way to adjust the the knee on these particular versions because they're the original 1970s. The newer version does have a knee option as well, but on these we can't do anything about it. So that is how the compression is going to sound. So I'm really quickly just going to hit that again so we can just hear that difference. Really listen for the peaks coming through on the UAD. It's much slower to respond. So much more punchy. Cool, so we're just going to have a listen to the bass now. The bass in this is just a Moog and sine wave combined just to make a really low roll-in Reese type thing. So same order as before. Now here the real difference for me is on the Waves version there seems to be a lot more harmonic generation in the low end. So that is something that can also be adjusted with the noise. You can push that a little bit harder. So if we push the noise right up here, now we go between the two, you'll notice even more of a difference. I actually quite like that noise function on this particular sound. It gives a really analog recorded tape type quality to it that isn't there before. So we just listen to it clean as I had it in the mix, and then if we apply this, it gives that sort of perception that it's been recorded maybe to tape, or it is a piece of analog equipment or something like that, whereas in this case it is all plugins and digitally created. And on. Obviously considerable loudness differences. We're just going to turn the noise back off to where the default is for this, and we are going to move on to the next. So next we've just got the instrument section, which is a bit of a guitar and some other bits. We'll just have a listen to it real quickly. And same order as before, I'll bring these in. There are some pops and clicks going on in the audio. It's part of some of the recording that I've got in here. I wasn't particularly happy with it, however in the mix becomes completely inaudible, doesn't really matter. What's noticeable here is the UAD again has got a really nice plucky attack on it, the sort of thing you'd want to keep and keep your transients, whereas the Waves version again is squishing that a little bit more. Listen to it again. overall gives a nice sound. They're quite similar in that respect, not as significant as the drums where it was really struggling with the fast dynamics and transients. Now we're going to try it on the overall mix. Just going to have a real quick listen to the overall mix again, and I'm just going to bring these guys straight in. And by now you know the drill on order we're going to do this in. Cool, so in the overall mix we see the Waves version bringing out the low end a little bit more. It brings up the sub because it's capturing the dynamics the way it is, whereas the UAD is still remaining nice and punchy. Now I would probably go for the UAD in this situation, however on the bass and lower channels the Waves version was working much nicer. Essentially what it's come down to here is these are supposed to be the same compressor, but they're two very different sounding devices. What I would really be concerned about with the UAD one is this tiny little GUI. I mean, the fact it's only a couple of knobs is okay, but if you're working on that on a laptop screen, perhaps like a 13-inch MacBook, that is going to be absolutely tiny on a Retina display. At least with the Waves, it's about double the size, and then some other features also combined in. So I mean, how many times could we even fit this within here? Probably 3 or 4 quite easily. That's a big downfall for me in usability. I mean, price wise, the Waves version currently is about $40, so there's like $100 discrepancy between the two as well. So if you're going to go for either of them, Waves is probably going to be a better option. If you already invested in the UAD side of things, maybe go for the DBX. It's really sounding great on punchy and heavily transient material, whereas the Waves version is flattening that out a bit, but does allow for that noise introduction, gives a really nice analog feel, especially to low end material. Guys, I hope the video has been helpful for you. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you on the next one.